And we're here with John Ramdian and Robin Black to chat all of today's news. We're going to start off with Tim Means because he has done an interview with MMAfighting.com and is stating that this completely surprised him, this flag by USADA. And it brings about a larger question that when there is a possible violation, it is made public, and then the fighter has the option to have the B sample tested. Do you feel that they should be waiting until it is a complete, this is guilty, that both samples are tested, or is it right on USADA to just throw this out there? I mean, typically, the B sample reflects the A sample, but the point is, they put this out, this is a possible violation, and the guy gets crucified whether he's guilty or not.
Well, I mean, you failed, right? The question is, you failed, do you want to double fail? Do you want to go back and check, and on the rarest of occasion, when a B sample comes in and goes, actually, you didn't fail, kind of like the Nick Diaz scenario, only still, man, we're still mad at you for that, Nevada. But you come back, and if it said, actually, it turned out it didn't, we'll talk about that just as much. So will the press, I think. You know, what is a guy going to say? Yes, I took it, Chael Sonnen. You know, that's a Chael Sonnenism. And, you know, we reacted pretty well to that. That guy seems to be on ESPN, Celebrity Apprentice. I think he was nominated for Analyst of the Year. And all around, we love Chael Sonnen. That's one option. The other option is, I didn't do it. I didn't do it could be because you didn't do it, or you did do it, but you're saying you didn't do it.
And what about Gilbert Melendez as well? It's like, actually, I didn't realize, I was just, following my coaches, and these are some of the things that happen. You trust certain people that are in your camp because, hey, I'm not a nutritionist or whatever, and then you get done.
Gilbert went with the more like, yeah, I'm guilty, that's true. It was my responsibility to do it, but I didn't inject anything. That's kind of the half in, half out. We still love you, Gilbert. This is one of those deals. This is going to be a fact of life for a while. In the dark ages before this, if you didn't know what the other guy was doing, if you were playing football and the other team was taking something, or you thought they were taking something, what are you going to do? Not take it? If everybody, you're a cab driver, and all these cab drivers are taking some kind of thing that makes them better cab drivers, or you think they are, and you're out in a world where you're going to do less, I mean, that was the motivation for a lot of these guys. Now with this testing, that door will be shut. And I like that thinking. Just make it so that it's so risky to cheat that nobody cheats.
What is the next step for the athletes involved? Because, some of these guys, or I'm sure a lot of the athletes that compete in mixed martial arts, they're trusting. They have to trust their dietitians and their nutritionists and their coaches. Do they have to do research themselves to say, okay,
of course.
What am I?
Yeah,
you
of
say,
course.
These are
on
not
the
children.
coach. Do research on the coach.
Yeah, right.
That's what you got to do. Hey, man, for a lot of years, there were all kinds of statements that people made. All kinds of fighters pointed the finger at ATT, and then all of a sudden, Hector gets popped, and Romero gets popped, and Gleason gets popped, all out of ATT. That's what USADA came in to do. And no judgment. These are facts. They came in, they looked at it, this was the purpose. And the penalties are so strong, you learn not to do it. My buddy Joe Rogan the other day said, first eye poke, loss of point. First groin shot, loss of point. People will freak out about that. And then lo and behold, 4 months later, ain't gonna be no eye pokes because you train to do things that will not allow you to lose the fight. So if all of a sudden fights are so close. One point, guys will be fighting like this. If you're parrying punches, they'll be parrying them. You'll change the way the game is played so that you never lose a point. Penalties.
Because right now we've talked to a number of fighters and coaches, and they know there are certain things that they're allowed to do without being penalized. You talk about the eye pokes and the fence grabs. Very often, the referees, the officials, they might warn a fighter, but very rarely do they take a point for certain infractions.
I think it's going to be very difficult to just a broad stroke. It's a point deduction for every foul because the point behind a point deduction is that you are evening the damage that you've incurred on your opponent. If I poke Robin in the eye and he's now at a debilitated state for the rest of this round, I now have an advantage. That point is to even it out. If I just graze the eye of Robin, he's completely fine. Is a point deduction warranted? You can't judge all things in the same
I'll tell you, man,
context.
guys are stopping using juice right now because if you use juice, you're screwed. If all of a sudden if your eye touches, your finger touches a guy's eye, you're screwed. Ain't nobody's finger going to be touching nobody's eyes. And I know people will argue that point. What if you do this? What if it's an accident? It's going to be so It's going to be such a penalty, there will be no accidents. In the gym from that day forward, it will be a mandatory training thing that if you catch a guy making one mistake that could cost him the fight, coaches will teach it out of him. It'll be gone in months.
And these are conversations.
I think we're going to get to, you'll have some guys, it's going to become soccer with guys. If it's the difference between a point being deducted or not, a shot that just grazes your inside thigh and boom, you're going down.
Yeah, I understand that.
But outcome of theatrics.
Sure, but at the same time, the officials have these conversations with the fighters. John McCarthy says, I talked to all the guys backstage. We know what's a real eye poke. We know what's, and again.
And you'll be penalized for faking it.
You'll be penalized for faking
Everything
it.
you change changes a whole whack load of stuff. We've seen it like so many times, which is the thing, the point that we keep popping back to with the weight cutting thing. Oh, well, we've changed it, so now you can only do this. But then guys will find a different way. Every change makes many changes. We're going to change the glove. Then you won't have eye pokes. We'll use pride gloves. Something else will happen. It's everything. It always sounds better to do something different, but it always makes new errors. There's always new things. Change is hard, man.
Let's discuss what now is going to be the new main event for February 21st in Pittsburgh with Tim Means out. Alex Cowboy Oliveira is in to take on Donald Cerrone. So we have Cowboy versus Cowboy. This was probably their best option that they could put together on 2 weeks' notice here going into Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Donald Cerrone, you're certainly loving this fight. A guy's taking this fight on short notice, a guy that is almost guaranteed to help you get the bonus of the night. And on top of it, he's not prepared for a 5-round fight like this main event's going to be. So this is a great situation for Donald Cerrone.
It's a great, you know who's going to win this? Cowboy. Cowboy's winning this fight. That's
the nickname should be on the line here. There should be none of these dual nicknames. And if there are, it should be settled this way. I mean, Hands of
It'll be
Stone
the Brazilian Cowboy.
didn't have that option being in different weight classes. But Cowboy, I mean, here it is. We can eliminate the problem. And the winner gets to choose the new nickname.
What about
For the
Pitbull
other
or
guy?
Assassin?
Oh,
There's too
God.
many different weight categories.
We could get rid of all of them. I'd be not complaining in the least.
You know, sometimes you hear that a team will say, or a coach or a fighter will say, we're not training for the other guy. This is about what I'm doing. He is just, you know, a particular challenge and we're working on our own game. One of the reasons guys do that is because you can have a change on 2 weeks' notice. What if we're training specifically, mentally focused, everything on a southpaw wrestler, and all of a sudden he's out and we got a long, tall striker? Like, does that throw you off? Does it ruin, does it waste all the time you've done? Which is why guys, especially experienced guys, tend to train not so specifically for their opponent anymore. They train to be, and you hear this, in the world of cliches. I mean, that Mickey Gall guy, yeah, if he wants to fight me standing up or he wants to take it to the ground, I'll fight him anywhere. Really? You just came up with that? Really? But that cliche is somewhat true. You work on that because what if the opponent changes?
What is going to do a bigger audience that weekend? Cowboy versus Cowboy in Pittsburgh or the Bellator 149 card 2 nights prior on Friday in Houston?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be the Bellator card. It's the throwback, the main event, Hoist Gracie and Ken Shamrock. People are like, what? How is this fight even still happening? I have to tune in to see this train wreck. And then before that fight happens, Kimbo Slice. Like I've said before, Kimbo Slice, my mom is interested in whenever she hears the name Kimbo.
Your mom likes Kimbo
Exactly.
Slice?
It's very, very strange. This is a woman that does not tune into combat, but because of his look, of his appeal, I think it creates a lot of interest, and I think it was a perfect thing for Scott Coker and the Bellator organization to do to bring this guy on board.
Mrs. Rabin seems like a sweet lady.
It's very strange.
Wow.
All right, well, she will be watching on February the 19th. We have more coming up with our preview show on Saturday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a full hour breaking down the UFC Fight Night card, headlined by Johnny Hendricks and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And then the prelims airing here at 8 Eastern with 4 fights coming your way, including KJ Noons taking on Josh Burton.